All right, guys. Now, hopefully, after last week or the last couple of weeks, you're comfortable with the relationship, well, as it says here, between food, energy, and calories. Hopefully, you're good to go with that. We know producers how they're harvesting the energy in photosynthesis. We'll see, or we have seen. Also, how not only the producers but other organisms, consumers, can then eat the plants and then eat each other. Energy is passed on from one organism to another. So we've been talking about that a lot. So hopefully that's a review. But another aspect we've got to look at, hopefully you have the nerdy science part down, is how once you get that food in you and your body breaks it down to make energy, like what do you actually do with the energy? Now, I'd bet you money that if I were to ask you that question, immediately you could come up with 5, 10 different things. So that's going to be kind of our focus for today. So again, really quickly, some of the stuff that items that we've hit on, like remember that if we had to hit rewind all the way back to the beginning of the tape, how does an ecosystem get its energy? Make sure you're aware of that and you know that. I'm going to go out on a limb and assume that at this point you know how you actually get energy, obviously from eating, but what do you do with that? What is that process called? And one thing based off of the quiz and some of the comments last week, I want to reiterate, is water actually a food source? You take it into your body, but do you get energy from water? Water doesn't have any calories in it, so what might be the purpose of that? Just something I want you to think about, because without water you die, but yet water doesn't give you energy. So just ask yourself and think for a few minutes. What it's not a food source, but it kind of is. But we don't get energy. But why is that important? Um, so again, what we want to do today really quickly is we want to look at the different kinds of work you can do because you have that energy. In other words, if you're a plant and you're able to make your own food and then do cellular respiration and break that down into energy, or if you're a consumer like you and you begin to eat food and then do cellular respiration, turn it into energy. What can you do with that energy? What are the kinds of work? So pretty simple, but I wanted to clarify this before we go on and go back into ecosystems again. So um, what we're going to do here is that there are going to be some categories of work you're going to see, and we can sum that up into several main categories. And the best way to try this is to give you the categories that we could do, like, for example, movement. It might be one of the most obvious categories overall. That think of the different ways that organisms can move: crawling, flying, swimming. Um, Movement is a category that takes energy. So I'm going to provide you with some other categories. If we had the chance and we were in class, we could have brainstormed together and come up with these. But to keep it short and sweet, I'm going to give you some categories. And then I'm going to give you a bunch of different uh, activities, a bunch of different things, real life examples of activities that organisms do. And I'm going to ask you to categorize them into their associated categories. Some of them are going to be really easy. Some you might get a little caught up. They may belong in more than one category. So here are the big four that we're looking for. Movement. These are really, if you're alive and you're using energy, you're doing it for one of these four categories. Movement, like we just said. Maintenance. Now, if you look at that word, to maintain, keep everything from breaking down. To keep your body keep you functioning as an organism. Growth and reproduction, I've squeezed into one category here just because really they're two different things. Reproducing is, as you know, is having more babies. Growing is growing larger. So those are actually two different uses, but they're kind of related because once you reproduce, the babies grow. So to make it easier on us, we've stuck those into their own into one category, and the last one will be waste production. So what I'm going to do here is to give you, again, I'm going to back out of this in just a moment, and I have strips of paper, not real strips. They're going to be virtual, you'll see. They have words or phrases on them that describe things organisms do. And all I'm going to ask you to do is, we're not doing it in groups, solo, is that I'm going to ask you to decide which category they belong in and then post them. And now, obviously, we're not in class, we don't have the board here, but post them in their appropriate category and be prepared to make an argument. So pretty simple. So how you're going to do that, you're going to see I've created a Google Doc here with just a simple little table. And you can see the 4 categories: movement, maintenance, growth, reproduction, and waste production. Now, what I have done here with this is I've put down 32 different activities here. I know that sounds like a lot, but they're pretty simple. And these are actually clickable and draggable. So I'm just going to really easy start with and we'll start with the one down, and we'll go up here. Start with one at the top, swim, because that's closest. So if you go back up, which one of these categories does swim belong to? You're not growing and reproducing when you're swimming. You don't swim just to produce waste. So we've narrowed it down to movement or maintenance, and after a few seconds you can realize that, oh, it's got to be movement. So what I'm going to ask you to do is you can click and drag this guy up into a box there, and then that is going to allow you, I'm going to plop that down here, you can put them into any boxes that you want. That's going to allow you to, I'm going to ask you to categorize them. I'll put walking up here, I'll put we can do whatever it is that we want with these. And what you're going to find is that ultimately at the end, very simply, I want you to drag all these into their appropriate. I'm just going to plop this guy, I'll put into there, making these things up as we go along. I'm going to ask you, and I'll regenerate these so that they fit. I'm going to ask you to then categorize them, and you'll have a completed table for a list. That's it. The one thing I'm going to ask, though, is that you are prepared, you have them in their categories. I am going to ask that you're prepared to defend your answers next class. So pretty simple. So I don't want you just to click and drag here. Put the appropriate activity, like healing broken bones, for example. Which one of these do you think that would go under? Defecating, which one would these go under? It doesn't take too long, but make sure you do them correctly, and you're prepared to defend your answers next class. Pretty cool.